Welcome dear students, we are on the CEC Gurukul lecture and we are discussing the memory devices. And today we will discuss the cache memory. Cache memory which is in between the microprocessor and the main memory, which will communicate between the microprocessor and the main memory, that is the random access memory. So up to now we have discussed the cache memory and its performance algorithm, and we discussed its replacement algorithm and how it performs. Now we discuss that how this cache memory performance of the system. So performance of the cache memory is generally measured in terms of its hit rate. The hit rate specifies the percentage of the memory accesses that result in the cache memory hits. So a high hit rate indicates that the significant portion of the memory accesses is satisfied from the cache memory. This provides the enhanced system performance. How we calculate the performance of cache memory? We just calculate by taking the hit rate of the system. So the performance of cache memory is generally measured in terms of its hit rate, and this hit rate specifies the percentage of the memory accesses. So all these are the fundamental concept of the cache memory design. Now we have a look about its advantages and disadvantages. But before that, we will discuss that what is the cache hit and a cache miss. This is the when the main memory address needs to be accessed by the processor for reading writing operation, we first go to the cache memory, and with there search for a copy of the location will be done. If we find it, then it is a cache hit and the processor can continue with the operations immediately. However, if the copy is absent, it is referred to as a cache miss, and we must first read this address with the some neighboring ones too in case of the future referencing. So into the cache memory. So we just take the cache hit and the cache miss. So the cache memory is classified on the basis of its level, where each level describes its accessibility and closeness to the processing element of the digital system. So on the basis of that, we define the various type of cache memory. So first, the classification of the cache memory is done in the following three levels. Number one level is the L1 level. That is the level 1, and it is called the primary cache memory. And this L1 cache memory is the fastest one, but it is very small in size and mainly used in the processor chip in the form of CPU cache. Another type is the L2, that is a level 2 cache memory. It is called the secondary cache memory, and it is having the more capacity as compared to the L1 cache memory, and it can be used in the processor chip as CPU cache, or it can be a separate chip. Another is the L3, that is a level 3 cache memory. This one is a specialized cache memory and is designed to enhance the performance of the L1 and L2 type of cache memory. However, the L3 cache memory is significantly slower than that of the L1 and L2 cache memory, but the performance of this memory is good as compared to the L1 and L2. Now, what are the features of the cache memory? We define the various features of the cache memory. Cache memory is faster than the main memory. It consumes less access time or compared to the main memory. It stores the program that can be executed within a short period of time. It stores data for a temporary use, and that can be deleted. That can sometimes it will just hinder the processing of the system. So we can just delete the data from the cache memory, and we can increase the processing of the system. What are the advantages of the cache memory? The digital system, any digital system having the cache memory, which provides the several advantages, and it improves the overall performances and efficiency of the system. Some of the key benefits of the cache memory are: cache memory provides a faster data access speed and reduces the total access time. This characteristics of the cache memory helps to speed up the execution of the task. Means when it is having the high speed execution, then it is taking the less time and the data will be retrieved in a very few nanoseconds. So cache memory helps to reduce the memory latency by storing the recent and most frequently used data and the instruction, and it will store the data and it can retrieve the data instantly. So this cache memory helps to reduce the memory latency by storing the recent and most frequently used data and instructions. Also, it minimizes the dependency of the slower primary memory or the RAM. So this feature also results to improve the system performance and efficiency. So cache operates at the same speed as the CPU. Hence it can provide a steady stream of input data and instructions that reduces the idle time of the CPU. Therefore, it improves the CPU utilization. Cache memory bridges the gap between the high speed extensive cache memory and the slow speed chip main memory, and it provides a balance between the speed, capacity and the cost of the system. There are some disadvantages, but it has some disadvantages as it is a very smaller having the very smaller storage capacity. It cannot use to hold all the data and the instruction required by the processing unit, and is expensive to the design and manufacturing, and it can increase overall complexity or as well as the architecture of the digital system. Sometimes the cache pollution may occurs when irrelevant data store is cache memory and there is no enough space for the useful data. So this significant degrade the system performances. But at last, the cache memory is a high speed semiconductor memory primarily used in the digital system to improve their performances and efficiency. The use of cache memory reduces the data access time and speed up the task execution and instantly retrieve the data. Moreover, being a quite expensive memory, it can increases the overall cost of the system. A memory device is an important component in the digital system like computer used to store the data and information. So different type of memory devices we have discussed which are used for the different purposes. As we use the volatile memory, that is the RAM, and non-volatile memory, that is the ROM, which are used for storing the temporary and the permanent data respectively. So like RAM is used to hold the temporary data which are required till the processor is complete. Moreover, in the non-volatile memory is used to hold the data permanently for a longer period. So a hard disk is used to store the data, users' data in the computer system. So sometimes we use the memory devices for the storing the data. What is the difference between this memory and the storage? So there are some questions which click in our mind, that what is the memory versus storage. So the concept of memory and storage can be easily conflicted as the same concept. However, there are some distinct and important differences. So memory is primary memory while storage is the secondary memory. So memory refers to the location of the short term data while the storage refers to the location of the data stored on a longer term basis. Storage memory and the storage memory is primary and storage is secondary. Memory is most often referred to as the primary storage on a computer such as RAM. Memory is also where the information is processed, and it enables the users to access the data that is stored for a shorter time. The data is only stored for a short time because primary memory is volatile, meaning it isn't retained when the computer is turned off. But the term storage refers to the secondary memory and is where the data is in the computer is kept. An example, the storage is data in the hard disk that can be used again and again. We always said this will store the data in the hard disk. We cannot say that the memory in the, but the memory where we are having a primary storage. So, storage is a non-volatile while memory is a volatile, which the information is still there after the computer is turned off then back on. So, a running program may be in the computer primary memory when is used for the fast retrieval of the information, but when the program is closed it resides in the secondary memory or the storage. So, space is available in the memory, how much we require the space for the memory and how much space we require for the storage. It depends upon the device to device. So, in general the computer will have the more storage space than the memory. For example, a laptop may have the 8 GB of the RAM while having the 250 GB for the storage. And the difference in the space is there because a computer will not need fast access to all the information stored on it at once. So, allocating approximately 8 GB of the space to run the program will suffice. So, for the sufficient data, the term memory and the storage can be confusing because their usage today is not always consistent. For example, RAM can be referred to as a primary storage and the type of secondary storage can include flash memory. So, first the RAM is a primary storage and the flash memory is the secondary storage. To avoid confusion, it can be easier to talk about the memory in terms of whether it is volatile or the non-volatile, as the storage is the non-volatile and the memory is the volatile, or we can say it is a primary and it is a secondary. So, these are basically the memory devices. Sometimes we just say as on the basis of that we see that what are the storage devices. So, what is the storage devices? The storage unit is a part of the computer system or an electronic system which is employed to store the information and instructions to be processed. A storage device is in an integral part of the computer hardware which stores the information data to produce the result of any computational work. Once its data has been stored, that will be used constantly whenever it requires. Without a storage devices, a computer would not be able to run or even boot up. So, storage devices plays a very important role, that is the secondary devices where the data is stored for the processing. If we start the computer, then to boot up we use the stored data, or in other words we can say that the storage device is a hardware that is used for storing, porting and extracting the data files, and it can also store information data both temporarily and permanently. So, how many types of the computer memory? Primary memory, secondary memory and the tertiary memory. Primary memory we have discussed earlier, that is the RAM and ROM, and it is also known as the internal memory and the main memory, and this is a section of the CPU that holds the program instructions, input data and intermediate result. It generally is smaller in the size, that is the random access memory and the read-only memory, an example of the primary storage. Secondary storage is the memory that is stored external to the computer, and these are used the permanent and the long term storage program data like hard disk, CD, DVD, pen flash driver, SSD etc. are the example of the secondary storage. What is the tertiary memory? This tertiary memory is a type of the memory that is rarely used in the personal computer. Due to this, tertiary memory is not considered to be as an important one. Tertiary memory works automatically without human intervention. So, we will discuss the different type of the storage devices available in the market and how they work, and these devices have their own specification and it is a utility. So, some of the storage devices we will discuss: primary storage devices, magnetic storage devices, flash memory storage devices, optical storage devices, cloud and virtual storage devices. Nowadays, cloud and virtual storage devices are used to store the data and instantly we can retrieve the data. As you all know about the floppy magnetic storage devices, a floppy disk, you all have seen that this is called the floppy disk, and it is generally used to the personal computer to store the data externally. Nowadays we are not using this floppy disk, but in the 90s and in the 20th we use this floppy disk to store the data, and it is made up of the plastic cartridge and secured with the protective case. And nowadays the floppy disk is replaced by the new and effective storage devices like USB SSD. Another is the hard disk, that is always used device when we just store the data and we take it the data externally in another devices. So, a storage device, that is HDD, a hard disk device that stores and retrieve the data using the magnetic storage. So, it is a non-volatile storage devices that can be modified or deleted n number of times without any problem. We can erase the data, we can put the data in the hard disk. So, most computers and laptops have HDD as their secondary storage devices. It is actually a set of the stacked disk, just like the another stacked devices. These are the magnetic devices. This hard disk recorded the electromagnetically in the concentric circles, and we can say the track present on the hard disk with the help of the head, just like a phonograph arm. So, to read the information present on the track, the read and write speed of the HDD is not so fast but decent, and it ranges from a few GBs to a few more terabyte. Another type of storage device is the magnetic card, and this card which data is stored by modifying or rearranging the magnetism of tiny iron based magnetic particles present on the band of the card, and it is also called the card, and it is used like a passcode or enter the house and hotel. Then we use that magnetic card, just put into the just to put into the panel, and it will just recognize. And like the credit card, it is also a magnetic card. Identity card is also the magnetic card. Tape cassette, it is known as the music cassettes, and it is rectangularly flat, contained in which the data is stored in an analog magnetic tape, and it is generally used to store the audio recording. Another type of storage device is the super disk, and it is called the LS240 and LS120, and it is introduced by the Lamination Corporation, and it is popular for the OEM computer, and it can store the data up to the 240 megabyte. And another type is flash memory devices. Flash memory devices are more cheaper and portable storage devices and most commonly used devices to store the data because is more reliable and efficient as compared to the other storage devices. And what are the flash memory devices? One is the one important is the pen drive. We generally use to transfer data from one end to the another end. So it is also called a one type of the USB flash drive, and that includes the flash memory which with an integrated USB interface. So we can directly connect these devices to our computers and laptops and read and write data into them in a much faster and more efficient way These devices are very portable and it ranges from 1 gigabyte to the 256 gigabyte generally. Another type of device is the SSD, that is a solid state device, and the mass storage devices like HDD, it is more durable because it does not contain optical disk inside like hard disk. It needs less power as compared to the hard disk and is lightweight and has a 10 cross faster read and write speed as compared to the hard disk. But these are costly as well, while SSD serves as equivalent function as the hard drive. So their internal components are much different unlike the hard disk. SSD does not have any moving part and thus they are called the solid state devices. Instead of sorting the data or just from the magnetic platters, SSD can store the data using the non-volatile storage. Since SSD have not any moving part, they do not have the spin up, so not need to spin up. It ranges from 150 gigabyte to the few terabyte. Another most important is the SD card, which always put into the digital system, and this is a secure digital card and is generally used with the electronic devices like phone, digital camera and extra. You have seen whenever you have seen that along with the chip there is a place where we can put this SD card. This is a secure digital card and it is generally used with the electronic devices like phones, like digital camera and extra to store the larger data, and it is portable. The size of the SD card is also small so that it can easily fit into the electronic devices. So it is available in many sizes like 2 GB, 4 GB, 8 GB, 16 GB and 32 GB. So another type is the memory card and it is generally used to digital camera, printers, game consoles, etc. And it is also used to store the large amounts of the data. Is available in the different sizes. To run a memory card or the computer, we require the separate memory reader. Another is a multimedia card. As the name suggests, multimedia card which can store the information like related to the media, like videos, like photographs, we can store in this multimedia card, and it is also known as the MMC, and it is an integrated circuit that is generally used in car, radio, digital camera, etc. So it is an external device to store the data and information. Next is the optical storage devices. Optical storage devices is also secondary storage devices and it is removable storage devices, and there are some example. You have seen the CDs. It is a compact disc and it contains the track and the sectors on its surface to store the data, and it's made up of the polycarbonate plastic and and it is in the form of the circular design and is circular in shape. Like CD can store the data up to the 700 megabyte to up to the 700 megabyte. There are two types, CDR and CDRW. CDR stands for the read only and CDRW where we read and write the data, and it can be easily erase the data and we put the data multiple times. Next is the DVD. You all have listened about DVD, that is a digital versatile disc, and it is also a circular flat optical disc and used to store the data, and it comes the two different sizes, one in 4.7 GB, that is a single layer disk, and another one is the 8.5 GB, that is a double layer disk. So DVDs look like CD, but the storage capacity of DVD is more than as compared to the CD. So it is also having the two type. Number one is the DVD-R and DVD-RW. DVD-R means where we can read the data only. So in this type of DVD, once the data is written, cannot be erased, and it is read only data. We can read the data from there. It is generally used to write movies there. Once a movie has been written on this disk, then we can see it again and again. Another type is the DVD-RW. It stands for the digital versatile disk, read and write, and this type of DVD can easily write or erase data multiple times. Another type of disk is the Blu-ray disk, and it is just like a CD and DVD, but storage capacity is more as compared to the CD and DVD. It's having this storage capacity of the 25 GB. To run a Blu-ray disc, we need the separate Blu-ray reader, and this Blu-ray technology is used to read a disc from a blue violet laser, due to which the information is stored in a greater density with a longer wavelength. So these are the storage devices. So up to now we have discussed the memory devices as well as the storage devices. In the next lecture we will discuss the another type of the storage devices, that is the memory card. Thank you very much.